Okay. So our next topic is the theory of consumer choice. And I just emailed you all a link through Blackboard to what I'm going to show you guys in the next few minutes, which is a chapter of a book that's free online and does a good overview and summary of the material. But before we get there, um, I'm going to go ahead and share a new whiteboard and explain to you all really, if you think about this class, we only have 4 topics in the class, and they're all related. I mean, it's economics after all, right? And our first topic is an overarching topic, ties everything together, which is the first fundamental welfare theorem. And then our second topic is supply and demand, and that includes everything we've covered so far. And our third topic is the theory of consumer choice. And then our last topic is the theory of the firm. And I'll modify these a little bit. We mean business firm as opposed to something like a law firm, right? Again, in economics, like most other disciplines, there's a lot of jargon or discipline-specific language. And whenever you see some mention of a firm in economics, they just mean a business, how a business is operated. Now, when I think about this material, the way that I think about it is that we've covered supply and demand because supply and demand is everywhere. If you're going to be an analyst for just about any company or government agency, you're going to be dealing with the demand and supply of something. And it'll normally be industry specific. So for example, when I was when I first graduated with my bachelor's degree in economics, I went to go work for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. And guess what they had me doing? Anybody want to guess? I might have mentioned it before.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, but supply demand of what?
Consumption.
Remember?
Water supply, water consumption.
Yeah. So we were trying to forecast the demand for water in greater Los Angeles. Big computer model, lots of data to forecast the demand for water for the next 30 years or 50 years in Los Angeles. And as you can imagine, a lot of that had to do with like projections of population growth, right? How much water do you need for 15 million people in 30 years if it's going to be 19 million? You want to make sure you have all the infrastructure in place so the city can grow, right? So yeah. Now the theory of consumer choice is basically demand. And the question is, more specifically, we're answering the question is, where does demand come from? And as you might imagine, there are lots of different reasons, but that we might want to answer this question. Let's see if I can get this to spread out a little bit. And okay. And down here, the question is similar. It's where does supply come from? And I don't mean literally it comes from buyers, but it's about what motivates the buyers, right? How do they make their decisions of what to buy? And in that way, you guys might think that it overlaps kind of with marketing and things like that, and it's true, it might. But we have a theory of where does demand come from, and the theory, it turns out, became necessary because if you think about the demand curve, remember, you can have an individual demand curve, right? And you can have a market demand curve. And remember, I talked about this before, that the demand curve for individuals and the demand curve for the market are related. So we might have Derek's demand for beer and my demand for beer, and we add them together. So we get a market demand curve for beer if we were the only two individuals in the market, right? But the important thing to notice is that individuals and their demand for the goods are what is actually driving market demand. So, say that's my demand for beer, and this is um, Derek's demand for beer, then we would add them together to get some market demand for beer. And if I did a good job at this, um, you should be able to see that there's like my portion of the demand curve, and then once the price gets low enough, I'm only suggesting this because I'm imagining, Derek, that I buy more expensive beer than you buy, but I don't know that that's true. I don't know what your beer preferences are. Do you ever buy the beer that's like in a kind of like champagne bottle?
Talking about Belgians and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my stuff.
Oh, okay, okay. So maybe actually we should have it
I might
reversed.
have the same demand curve.
But see, down here, um, when the price gets low enough, yeah, maybe Derek should be the one on top and I should be the one on the bottom there. But now demand kicks in for both consumers, so they're both contributing. And if you just had two consumers like this, then at that point you'd have like a kink in the demand curve, um, right? So it'd look like that. But the important point is that if there's something that shifts the demand curve for one of the individuals, so I'm shifting it there, or the other individual, oh, let's see if I can grab the other one, right? It's the individual's decisions that are going to cause these market demand curves to shift. It's nothing at the market level that happens that's not ultimately related to some individuals in the market changing their decision. So ultimately, demand is driven at the market level by individual consumer purchasing behavior. And that's what the theory of consumer choice is about. And so the theory of consumer choice is a model of how consumers or an individual consumer um, spends income on different goods. Okay. And so this model has two components. And I don't know if it could be made any simpler, right? Um, but it starts with this characterization of a consumer choice problem. And the consumer's choice problem has those two components. One of them is uh, a model of consumer income or budget. And this part, if you think about it, I think that it addresses a really important issue, and that is affordability. Okay. And the second component of the model is a model of consumer preferences. And this is what consumers like. Okay. And the two key words, what we'll talk a lot about, um, and I don't know if there's a way that I can highlight this, but I'll try. Our our key words here are affordability, budget, and here consumer preferences. Okay. So there's an underlying assumption. It turns out that the consumer budget and income ends up being pretty straightforward. The one that becomes a little bit more complicated is consumer preferences. So consumers are assumed to be rational in economics. And this is true for, I'll say, and you guys might have heard of these terms before, but if you haven't, then this might be new to you. Um, this is the assumption in neoclassical economics. And it's responsible for probably, I'll say, 97% of all economic theory. Now, the other 3% violates this assumption of rationality, and it's called behavioral economics. And it's relatively new. So most of this has been going on for the last 10 years. And I have to tell you that when I graduated from UC Santa Barbara 20 years ago with my PhD, that behavioral economics was just getting started. And I'm skeptical of a lot of their claims and findings. And I think that most economists that were trained the way that I was are. But remember that in every science, right, there are some things that aren't well explained and need better explanations. And in that sense I'm sympathetic. There are, despite the success of economics overall, there are um, issues that have come up in a lot of the data that we see. And I won't say a lot of the data, I will say some data, a relatively small part of the data that we see. But um, it seems like the assumption of rationality doesn't doesn't really explain as well as probably we would expect as scientists for to explain the behavior of people. But I want to also point out that that rationality itself is is a special piece of jargon in economics. So, um, Jacob, are you there this morning? Jacob?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was in the bathroom.
Well, we all are sometimes. TMI. You can just say I was away for a minute. That's
Well, I was away, so
I was away. So let's talk about rationality. Did you hear what I was saying about rationality, or did you miss out on that?
no, I just got back right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. So how about Jian Yu? Are you there, Jian?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear what I was saying about rationality?
I'm sorry, I really have no idea about this.
Okay. Okay. Well, if I say, like I said back here, I said that economics assumes that consumers are rational. So it's this little bullet point, or not bullet point, statement right here. They're assumed to be rational,
Okay,
right?
I see. Got it.
And and then I ask you, well, what does rationality mean to you? What do you think?
For rational, I think it's like uh, how to say. Uh, like
Okay. Okay. So I'll ask for a volunteer. Does anybody else want to chime in and tell me what they think
Well,
about?
people will act to maximize their self-interest.
Okay. Okay. So one part is people are self-interested,
Mhm.
and I would go along with that. In fact, that's part of um, what economists mean, that people are self-interested. And was that you, Ziyuan, or
Yes. See.
okay. So yeah, you gotta tell me, because like sometimes it lights up and I don't
No
see
problem.
people and whatever.
Mhm.
So does anybody else have an idea of rationality that's more specific, or maybe adds to what Z was saying?
Would it imply that when you're making a choice that you're going to choose the things you like best?
Okay.
Does it
Shoot.
imply that you're well informed?
Hmm.
Or is it like assuming that people are going to act rational?
Well, that kind of begs the question. So that sounded like Hannah, or was it Hannah, or who was that? Yeah, it was you, Hannah.
Yeah.
So what do you mean assumes people are going to act rationally? Because
Well, I mean, when you're trying to figure out, how much, or I guess like how people are going to act in a market, you can't factor in all the incidences where people are going to act irrational. I think it makes more sense to act when people.
well, okay, that even begs the question: what does it mean to act irrationally? Does it mean that I don't know if you have an example of irrational consumer behavior.
I mean, maybe at the beginning of quarantine, people were going crazy with toilet paper.
Is that irrational? I don't know.
I guess depending who you ask.
Yeah, well, I guess and this is a good point. It's important, and I'm glad you brought up the whole toilet paper run on toilet paper with the pandemic, because a lot of people would have said that that is irrational. But notice that that's kind of like what I would call dinner table conversation. It's kind of a non-technical way of using the word rationality, and that's the reason why actually I hate the word rationality, because what economists actually mean is something more like those first three things that we put down. The well-informed one is kind of a little bit hard, because what does it mean to be well-informed versus not well-informed? Like when you're talking about toilet paper and buying it, I don't know. But if you think that the store is going to be shut down for months and you're not going to be able to go to the store, or everybody's going to be sick and walking around like zombies, then maybe buying toilet paper in bulk makes sense, right? Because you don't want to go to the store for a couple months because you don't want to get sick. Yeah, what we want to do is we want to use the more discipline specific technical definition, and make sure that we distinguish between that and the way that rationality is used by people in common conversation. Because we could talk about different people in our lives, my sister or my cousin, being completely irrational, and that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what economists mean when they say that consumers are rational. People who are emotionally and impulsive or other things like that can still be perfectly rational from an economic perspective if they are acting in their self-interest. And I think it's caused a lot of confusion if later on in your careers, or when you're walking around campus, you happen across somebody from another discipline that are a little bit skeptical about economics, and there are people out there. Though I will point out, what is the common feature for most people that are skeptical about economics and economic theory? Does anybody have any idea? If you guys do, please put down in the chat, because I have a simple answer. Non-economists. Skeptical about economics in general. Anybody have an idea? No, I don't think so. You know what I think it is? See, I think it's that they earn less than economists do. They're just jealous. So
Yeah, sure.
that's it, right? So in general, I mean, that may not be true in every case, but yeah, they're just trying to get a dig at our discipline because of that. But more to the point, right? I think we've made it easy for them by adopting this word rationality to describe the behavior of consumers. But rationality is actually a technical idea. And it's an assumption about preferences. And if most people really understood what the assumption was, then or what the assumptions were, they wouldn't question it. And what it is, and I say that preferences are CRT, or actually CMT. What does C stand for? C means preferences are complete. And M means preferences are monotonic. And T means preferences are transitive. Okay, and so maybe now, I mean, if as a discipline, we said, oh, well, we just assume that consumers' preferences are complete monotonic and transitive, or CMT. You wouldn't have anybody poking fun at economists and saying, oh no, your discipline is just wrong from the beginning because you're assuming that people are rational, and people are irrational a lot of the time. Because again, dinner table conversation, ideas of rationality don't really get at these issues of, are the preferences complete? Are they monotonic? And are they transitive? And if you were to say, well, we just assume that consumers have complete monotonic and transitive preferences, that would stop the conversation, because instantly most people who are non-economists would realize they don't know what we're talking about. And these are all technical, mathematical assumptions. And I say they're mathematical because if there's anybody here that's also doing a minor in math, eventually you'll take a class called real analysis, and you'll realize that the existence of the real numbers actually entails these same assumptions. So what do we mean by completeness? So for preferences, completeness just means that consumers' preferences always exist. So the way that we would say that is we would, and I don't have all the symbols necessary to write this properly, but if you have two things, call them bundles of goods, bundle one and bundle two. What I mean by a bundle is exactly what it sounds like. It's a group of goods together, like a hamburger and a hot dog and a taco, and maybe that's one bundle, and beer and tequila and whiskey are the other bundle. But consumers can always say, I like bundle one, and I'll put, and normally these would be scripted symbols that look like greater than and less than symbols, but we don't have those symbols available. So I'll just use the double greater than sign. So this means bundle one is preferred to bundle two, or bundle two is preferred to bundle one, or bundle one is indifferent to bundle two, which means indifference means you don't care. You like them both the same. Okay. Now, I don't know. I often ask students to comment on this, and so Z, you want to chat with me for a minute? We haven't
Hi.
heard from you a lot. Hi. So I'm going to ask you a question and see if you can answer it for me, right? Would you prefer a zombie apocalypse or a nuclear holocaust?
Zombie apocalypse.
You would prefer the zombie apocalypse. How do you know?
Well, a nuclear war, for example, is going to have a lot of damage within a really short amount of time.
Oh, you
And
have
we
more.
cannot.
You have more time with the zombie apocalypse.
Yes,
Oh, okay, but they're both pretty bad.
they're
you
both pretty bad. Yes.
But you were able to rank them, right?
Yes.
And you did so without hesitation, right? But you have limited experience. It's all just based on your imagination. And to be more clear, economists would say it's based on your expectations, which you're talking about, of like what this situation would be like. But you didn't have a moment. And I'd imagine if we ask other people, they might rank them in different orders, or they might say, well, I'm gonna die one way or the other, so I don't care, right? But they don't say does not compute. Like I can't even rank those things because I just have there's nothing in my brain about it. And so that's the essence of what completeness is. You can talk about any sets of goods now in the future under different circumstances, and people can announce a preference for them. So that's kind of evidence of completeness. And it has to be true for our economic models to work, that for everything that consumers are making choices over in our models, they have some sort of ranking, like you just discussed. They have a preference.
Mhm.
And if they don't, then the models don't work. But that's a pretty, I hope you would agree, and most other people would agree, that's a pretty benign, meaning a pretty weak assumption. It's not like we're expecting a high hurdle of people. We're just saying they have a preference. Their preferences exist. And so the assumption of monotonicity just means more of what you like is preferred to less. And so I just want to, because we're almost out of time, I want to just talk about this, and then we'll pick up next time. So Z, since I was talking to you, I'll talk to you some more. So more is preferred to less, right? What's something that you like? Pizza? I don't know. Do you have
Yeah.
a pizza? You like pizza? What type of pizza do you like?
Cheese.
Oh, just cheese. You're simple. Do you like a particular type of cheese pizza? Like, because at Papa John's you can get the 3 cheese blend instead of just the regular mozzarella. I don't know if you like the cheese blend or this.
Well, I would say Costco.
Oh, Costco
Mhm.
cheese pizza. Yeah. So do you agree that you prefer more Costco cheese pizza to less?
You mean like I prefer more Costco pizza versus some other variants?
Yeah, no, just like if we're talking about Costco pizza, and
Uh-huh.
and I change your bundle and I say bundle number 1 is 1 Costco cheese pizza, and bundle number 2 is 2 Costco cheese pizzas. And I know you can buy them in the slice, so we could do it by the slice. That might be easier, but we'll just say they're whole pizzas, right? Would you rather have the bundle with 2 cheese pizzas or the bundle with 1 cheese pizza?
Well, of course, I would like to have the one with 2 if I pay the same price for them.
Yeah, or if they're for free, right? Because actually,
Mhm.
with the preferences, we haven't even talked about what's affordable. We haven't talked about prices or income. And so monotonicity in this context just means that you'll rank order bundles that have the same quantity or the same goods but greater quantities higher than ones with the same goods and lower quantities. And that, again, to me, that doesn't seem like a very challenging or high level of expectation for consumer behavior. I will point out, I think it's important to know, or realize at least, that for any bundle, like 2 cheese pizzas, right, and 1 cheese pizza, the 2 cheese pizzas actually includes the 1 cheese pizza, right? So you could, if you really liked the 1 cheese pizza, you could still choose the 2 cheese pizza and throw one of them away and still have 1 cheese pizza, right?
True.
So yeah, and that's what we would call, if you said that more is preferred to less, I also want to put in a little modifier here, and it's weakly preferred. And that deals with the situation of that if we have bundle 1 and we have bundle 2, and bundle 2 is the one with the 2 cheese pizzas, another one's one with 1 piece cheese pizza, all monotonicity means is that either you would be the one with more is preferred to the one with less, or B2 is ranked the same. It's no worse, right? So as long as you satisfy that condition, you either rank the bundles as being the same, the one that has more in it, or you like the one with more in it, then again, you're still within the boundaries of rationality as defined by economics. The only thing that we haven't covered yet is this issue of transitivity, which we'll talk about next time. But all transitivity says is if you have a bundle 1 and it's preferred to bundle 2, and you have a bundle 2 and it's preferred to bundle 3, then it has to be the case that bundle 1 is preferred to bundle 3.
Yes, logically. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the assumption of transitivity. And again, it works with real numbers. If you think about these as being greater than, if 10 is greater than 5 and 5 is greater than 2, then it has to be the case that 10 is greater than 2. And so these are the only assumptions of rationality. And I want to say one last thing before we go, and that is what economists have shown is that if preferences are rational, then there has to be something we call a utility function that represents the preferences. Okay, so this is the big idea, is our ending idea, and we can talk about utility functions more next time. Please read that chapter. I'll show you guys really quickly. It's this chapter from the Lumen text. It's pretty simple, but it goes over how we use these new diagrams that you may not be familiar with called indifference curve diagrams to represent the preferences of consumers. And ultimately, how you can use those diagrams to recover this. This is the really big part right here, this diagram right here, to show you how these diagrams can be used to recover the demand curve for the consumer. So that's it for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful next couple days, and I'll see you soon.
Quick question, Professor.
Yeah.
So when economics, when we're talking about rationality, we're actually talking about